This program only reflects the personal views of the program host and all the individual contributors.
This is Newsline. I'm Michael Chigani. Why are Hong Kong's young people suddenly so radicalized? I have one of those youths right here in the studio, Christina Chan, and an academic who saw it coming, Michael Degollier. Thank you both for being on this edition of Newsline. Now, Michael Degollier, I'll start with you. First, you're the head of the Hong Kong Transition Project at the Baptist University. You do opinion polls. You track the political mood in Hong Kong. And you saw this coming. You saw the younger generation getting more and more radicalized, and it culminated recently with this clash with the police over the building of the railway. How did you see it coming? Why is it coming?
Well, first, it's pretty obvious. All you have to do is look back as far as the 2008 election, whenever the League of Social Democrats won 3 seats.
That's long hair and the rest.
Yeah,
right.
Long hair and the rest. It's very clear that, and this was a surprise to a lot of people, but it was very clear that looking at various developments over years, that we've had a shift going on between poor people being dominated by the elderly to increasing numbers of young people being poor and staying poor. I mean, everybody expects students to be poor. But when you're in your mid-20s, you've been out of school 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and you're still poor, that's unusual. And that's what we're beginning to see. And that's also what we're seeing on the streets. People really feeling like their futures are being closed off. That's right. That the opportunity society is not opportunity for them. And what really makes these people angry is when the government is seemingly overeager to spend $66 billion to cut 18 minutes off the trip to Guangzhou for the developers to make them happy. And yet when we're going to have, just as was reported this week, 3,000 people graduating from secondary school, qualified to go to university, and the government basically says, sorry, we're not going to spend any money on your future. Our future lies in building some tracks.
Well, you know, I've got one of those young people right here, Christina Chan, a very controversial figure. What is making you now speaking out? I don't know that it's poverty. You're still a college student, right? You're still.
I'm a research student. I do get the studentship from the university. I'm not worried about money.
But why then are you taking to the streets and confronting authority?
I think most young people that I actually see quite a lot when I go to protest, they aren't really coming out because they're unhappy that they're poor. They're not middle class kids, but they're not worried about getting an office job and not having the opportunity. It's just that we've grown up in British Hong Kong, and then being promised that when Hong Kong's handed over to China, we'd have Hong Kong people ruling Hong Kong, and we waited for so long, and we still don't even have democracy. We don't have one person.
So what you're fighting for is what? Democracy?
Yeah, it is, and it's a more.
But how does fighting for democracy lead to clashing with the police over a railway?
Well, actually, I don't think we actively clash with the police. The police always uses these kind of violence or even some ways of blocking us to stop us from exercising our civil liberties. But we actually think that since most directly elected legislators are against the railway, the railway, and most people that are in LegCo actually are for it because of the functional constituency, and that reflects the problem.
So you're talking about the political system.
Yeah.
Well, Michael Degollier, okay, you saw this thing. You say that there is a discontent in society. The rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer.
What we're talking about are 2 different groups. If you go back and think about the Tiananmen Square protest, that was led by students like Christina. What really got the government concerned is when other people who were disaffected started joining in and supporting them. Now, what we've got in Hong Kong are these same elements. We've got kids like Christina who have very different, more intellectual or value-oriented kind of reasons for protesting. But there is this very increasingly hopeless, alienated group, not university students, who do not have these options, who are out there. You're beginning to run into them. I've talked to some of them. They're starting to show up at these things, and they don't have the same sort of restraints and restrictions that Christina and folks like her might have.
People are saying she doesn't have any restraint as well.
Well, what I've been predicting is not what I would call very mild protests so far.
You're talking about...
What I'm expecting is real trouble down the road.
What kind of real trouble?
All this is just rumblings,
what kind of real trouble?
Rumblings of discontent. This is not the arrival of discontent.
What kind of real trouble? Rioting in the streets?
I think what we have at the moment with this by-election coming up, all right, we have a by-election in which effectively one group, the LSD group, long hair and the others, have been for years now saying the Legislative Council is pointless, it's useless, you can't trust the government is corrupt, government won't listen, and yet they're still in LegCo, and they'll be running again for LegCo. What I think will happen in the by-election, almost of a certainty, they will lose. And then those people who feel that long hair and the others are their voice will suddenly realize there's no voice at all in LegCo. Everything they've been saying is really true now, and they're going to look at the LSD as simply manipulating them to get votes.